All right, you may have a seat. Thank you so much. Romans 8:28 is where we're going to be today. Romans 8:28 is where we're going to start. And this is obviously a very important Sunday. And the reason it's an important Sunday is because it is the kickoff of the NFL for the new season, right? So everyone has to focus upon that. College football started, pro football started. Let's get this all the way. How many people wore like a brown shirt today? How many Browns fans are here? 2 of us. Wow. I'm sorry. I didn't mean 2 of us. 2 of you. So I want to make sure you get that right. 3 with. All right. Who's got? Mike's holding both thumbs down the back. Who's your team, Mike?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Are you from Minnesota? That's always a question I get with Pittsburgh. Is it? Are you from Minnesota?
No, sir.
Why are you a Vikings fan?
I have 2 other brothers, and one was a Cowboys fan, one was a Steelers fan, and I was a Vikings fan.
So you met right in the middle of Minnesota.
Yeah. So.
Those of you who are geography majors, you know that's not actually in the middle. Way to meet them right down the middle. That was good. All right. So Vikings, Browns, Steelers. What's another team we root for? Panthers. All right. Who said Cowboys? Okay, you're a sinner. Give me another one. No one else has another team? That's it?
Green Bay.
Patriots? Oh. That brings up more negativity than anything. Right?
The Saints.
Who said the Saints? Yeah, you'd think that in a Christian church we root for the Saints, right? One person roots for the Saints. All right, so we have all these different teams. There's all this excitement that takes place. We go through all this preseason that nobody wants. In fact, Andy, when he met me at the door today, said, "Hey, we're the preseason champs." That's what he said to me. I'm like, I don't think they give a trophy for that. They give a participation trophy. Thanks for just showing up, you guys. Right? So there's no participation now. Now it's for real. And so we have all these expectations. Last year at this time, there was a gentleman who was the quarterback of the Browns. His name was Robert Griffith III. Did I say that right, Jay?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Because nobody knows. He's not even on a team anymore. And so he was the latest expectation to have, and everyone was excited, and they got all the snacks ready to go, and the game was on, and it was kickoff time, and they kicked the ball off. For those of you who don't know, he decided for some reason that he was going to run over a 300-pound guy and didn't, and hurt his back, and he was out for pretty much the rest of the season. So every Browns fan had enough time to lean forward, grab a bowl of chips, dip one chip into it, bite into it, and then it was over, right? And so we find these reasons every year with our team to find a reason to be discontent. And it happens especially when you're, people used to say, a Cleveland sports fan. Because we forget quickly, but we also have a long-term memory. So we have this long-term memory with the Browns that they haven't won for years and years and years. And then the Indians make it to the World Series last year, and so we hold on to that, but they lose to the Cubs, so we're upset with them from the beginning of the year. And now all of a sudden, in case you didn't notice, they've won like 17 games in a row. And so now we're excited again. Guess what? And I'm glad you're all sitting down for this. They're going to lose a baseball game again before the end of the year. It's going to happen. Now, if I'm wrong, I would love to tell you that I was wrong. I had no problem with that. But they're going to lose a baseball game. But if they get to the World Series, and they don't win the World Series this year, how are you going to feel?
Bombed.
Like a Cleveland fan, someone said. I didn't say that. Or like a Minnesota fan, right? I mean, it's going to get to that point where you want to become that lovable loser, and you have that constant discontent. It happens. It's part of our life. With the Cavs, I don't know if you know this or not, but it was just 2 years ago that we won a championship. For the first time in 52 years. And how quickly did we forget? The next year, we're complaining about it. And all of a sudden, top players want to leave, and we still have this great team. But we find reasons to have discontent. So on this day, on the start of our kickoff, on the start of this first exciting day, some of the questions that people have coming in is, will the pastor get us out in time for pregame? Because if I don't, you're going to start your day off with discontent. When you woke up, and you woke up a little bit late, and you're upset about something, you start your day off with discontent. I'm going to bring up the fact that last Monday we had off, tomorrow you have to go to work. What did I just add to your life? Discontent. And there are so many areas within our life that we have discontent. It doesn't matter how old we are. If you're a student, you're like, oh my goodness, I've got a science test coming up or I have an English test coming up, or there's a paper I was supposed to write, and oh my goodness, he just reminded me that I have those 3 tests, and I didn't even write the paper. Discontent. There's a teacher that we don't care for. Discontent. And there's so many areas within our life that we find discontent. And we don't stop long enough to recognize God enough to see Him in that, and so we instead add to that discontent. But we've already won. How cool is that? Someone's up. How cool is that? You know what that attitude? Discontent. You guys not paying attention here so far? Is this thing on? All right, here we go. It just happens. That's not a big deal. That happens. What about our spiritual walk? What about our walk with God? And what about our everyday battle that we have within ourselves, within our mind, within our hearts when it comes to our faith? And we don't take it to God first. Or something happens, we're like, and everyone starts blaming God. Or people bring it to us and say, aren't you a person of faith? Why is that happening? That doesn't make sense. And so what it does is it naturally breeds discontent to the point that we don't even stand up for our faith many times. It could be a national anthem that we don't stand for, or that people don't stand for, and it breeds discontent. It could be a police officer that may have been in the right, but because of the way the media portrayed it, all of a sudden, he's in the wrong, and it breeds discontent. So this is around us everywhere that we go. But then for us personally, when it comes to our spiritual walk, it happens as well. Because, you know what, I became a believer, I was on fire, and things were going great. And so I decided I needed to take the next step. So I started serving somewhere. And maybe I served with the little kids in the back. Or maybe I was helping out with the teenagers. Or maybe I jumped into this mission thing, and it really wasn't my thing. But I thought, oh, this is what God wants me to do for right now. And then a few weeks later realized, man, I am in the wrong spot. I am doing the wrong thing. And I've been doing this for so long, and it's not really me, but I thought God would work me through this. And so we end up with this discontent. So we pull back for a while. And then we start to do the personal walk, where I'm going to read my Bible more, I'm going to study more, I'm going to pray more. And so we said, I'm going to start waking up early in the morning. And I'm going to spend 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I'm going to read God's Word, and I'm going to pray. And then after a few days, it's like, man, I can't even get up this early in the morning, and I'm going to bed actually later. And so this great intent that we had of devoting our time and giving it to God and starting our day with Him suddenly turns to discontent. But then one day, someone sees something that says, hey, we need some help in an area. We need you to be a part of this ministry. You know what? It would be great for you if you join the other men, or you join the other women in their study. And so then we start to grow from it. And we start to find this place where, like, oh my goodness, I've arrived. I'm finally with other people that are like-minded. And I found out that when I went to that Bible study, it wasn't just me that was having the struggle. There were other people that had the struggle. And so how can I grow from this? And then you go for 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks, and you're so excited. And then it ends. And then we're not around those other people. And it's just us and our thoughts and the things that are going on in our heart. And then we realize, man, oh man, I'm right back to where I was. And I'm stuck in this discontent. And it smolders. And it kind of festers. And what it ends up doing is we end up beating ourselves up for our own walk. How do we get around that? How do we turn that? How do we take these struggles that we have in our everyday lives, and how do we give it so that we see God in every moment? That we recognize God in those struggles. That we put Him first. And decide that, you know what, enough is enough in this life. I'm going to choose to start doing everything God's way. Not just in the early morning. Not maybe just at lunch before I bow my head to pray. Not just in dealing with the people that rub me the wrong way, or that say that they have faith but show anything but. Not even with the hypocrites, or not trying to be. In all these different areas that I will recognize God. How is it we do that? Paul's going to share with us today in Romans chapter 8. I'm not sure if Jake's going to be able to get the verse up there or not. There's a Bible in front of you can use in the pew if you want to grab that. Romans 8, verse 28. This is one of the most famous verses within the Bible. I don't teach a ton from Romans, not because I'm against the book of Romans in any way, shape, or form, but for whatever reason, I've just never really centered a lot on it. But this verse is a very key verse. If you are someone who doesn't know Christ, you may have heard the term the Roman road. The Roman road is a road that they take you on to lead you to salvation, so that they can show you, according to God's word, that yes, we have all sinned. Yes, we have all fallen short. But yes, at the same time, God has more for each one of us. And as a believer, you can grasp a hold of that. You can have that faith, you can have that hope, and you can have that love that God pours out to each one of us. And they can show you right through this book of Romans, through this little Roman road, that you can have a place in eternity. One of the verses that it uses is from chapter 8, and verse 28. It says this, and it says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who've been called according to His purpose." Now, I'm going to share with you the next couple verses. And I'm going to share with you right now that most people don't like talking about the next few verses after this. And the reason I don't like talking about that is because it's really kind of some deep theological kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's probably not as deep as you think, and it can be as deep as you want it to be. But they avoid it because they don't want to have the discussion. We're going to talk about it because it's important to talk about to understand it. But in this verse right here, I want you to understand something. We have already won. And in some of your Bibles, it's going to have a title that says, "We are conquerors." So when it comes to your faith, do you act like a conqueror? Or do you act like someone that is like, man, I really want to live my faith, but I'm not quite sure, so we're kind of complacent? Or like, you know what, when I finish high school, or when I finish college, or when I finish whatever the next step is, then I'll live my faith, so we procrastinate. Or, I don't know enough of the words, and I don't know enough of the books of the Bible, and I don't know enough of the verses, and I'm not sure exactly what it is to say, so I'm going to hold off until I have enough knowledge. And then I'll act like a conqueror. If we summed up the New Testament into 2 verses, they would be the words of Jesus, and He would say this: "Love others as I have loved others." So you use my example, love others as I have loved others, and go and make disciples in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And then He says this, "And I'll give you all power and all authority," all the way through that. So love others as Christ loved others, and make disciples in His name. That's it. Those are the words of Jesus. He didn't say memorize every single verse in the Bible, because while you're taking all that time and memorizing, not that memorizing is a bad thing, but when you're taking all that time, you're not taking the time to love others. When we're going out and doing every single thing we can to show that we have God, to buy the t-shirts, to put the bumper sticker on, to have the Jesus fish on our car, do all those other kind of things, we spend so much time with our head down that we don't recognize the people that God has brought into our life. Because that's faith in action. And Jesus said, have that faith in action. But are you walking complacently? Are you walking as a procrastinator? Are you walking around the outside? Are you going through the outskirts? Are you doing whatever you can to actually face your faith walk every single day? Because when you make that decision, and I make that decision, and after I put in that armor, it is now battle. Here's the best part about it. It's a battle you've already won. So now if you know that you've already won this battle, do you walk in such a way that people can see that you're victorious and that you're not afraid to stand up for your faith? A few years back, we shared a message on a thing called I Am Third. And it was around a semi-pro football team that was here locally that actually played out of the Copley area. And we took footage from the football team and we went all the way through. And the thing that was cool about it is that every time this team came together, one of them would start and say, I am, and the rest of the team would say third. And the focus on being I am third was this. It was to bring true joy to their life. Joy standing for Jesus, then others, then you. It's a great way to, great equation to live your faith every day. Jesus and others and you. Jesus, others, you. Joy. And so they would stop to recognize enough within their huddle that, hey, this is for way more than me. God's got this, and God has me. I am third. I am third. Now, focus on something here for a second. This is a semi-pro team. Some of these guys have played in the NFL. Someone played in the CFL. Someone played in the Arena League. Their entire goal is to get back to be on a 53-man roster or a practice squad with the NFL. That's all they're trying to do, just to get a chance, just to get an opportunity to use the gifts that God has given them on the grandest stage of all. And for many of us, that is our biggest fear. What if I start living in such a way that people can see my faith in action? What if I lived in such a way that when people looked at me, they're like, there's something different. There's a light shining. There's something bright about him. I don't know what it is, but man, there's just something different, and it's attractive. And I'm kind of drawn to it, and I want to understand more. They share things of wisdom. They share things of peace. They're very joyful. They're very self-controlled. These are all the things that shares about being the fruit of the Spirit. And we're drawn to it. What if we chose to live that every day? Here's the problem. We fear that. We fear taking that step. We fear getting to that point. We fear that that may happen because of this. We're afraid that God may call us to do something that we don't want to do. Hey, I ended up with the kids in the back, and that didn't work out so well. Hey, I went to that study and I was really lifted up, and then boom, I was completely let down because everyone stopped meeting. That didn't go so well. So we start to look elsewhere to fill in those gaps, and we start to look to what this world has to offer to fill in the areas of need that we have. And this fear takes place, and it stops us from ever truly stepping forward to do what it is that God has called us to do. Fast forward for a second. What if, though, you found that out? What if you not only found it out, but God said to you, this is what your purpose is, this is what you're going to live, this is the direction that you're going to take, and everyone is going to see me through it. Would you sign up for that? Listen to what Paul has to say about it. And we know. He doesn't say, and we question, and that, it's an option, and hey, there's a thought. It says, and we know that in all things, in every game that we take part in, whether we play or we sit the bench, whether we pitch, whether we hit, whether we throw, whether we block, whether we shoot, whatever it might be, in every class, for the ones that make fun of the faith, for when we're learning about evolution, for when they say that the world is 8 billion years old, in all things. In your workplace where the boss is an atheist and puts you down, or there's agnostics that come in to poke fun of you and want to make fun of you. You're in the medical field and the doctors are like, there's no such thing as God. There's science and science only, and I can prove it. In all these areas, in all things, in every area of your life, it says, God works for the good of those who love Him. So let's ask you a question. Do you love God? Do you believe then that God loves you? Because when we get that belief and when we have that understanding, it's amazing the things that can change in our lives. And this is what Paul is sharing. He says, for all those who have been called according to His purpose. Here we go. Here's the difficult part. For those God foreknew, He also predestined to be comforted or conformed to the likeness of His Son, that He might be the firstborn among many brothers. Verse 30. And those He predestined, He also called. Those He called, He also justified. Those He justified, He also glorified. And this is why we don't talk about this. We don't want to talk about predestination. We don't want to talk about God knew us ahead of time. We don't want to talk about that we are there to be that light. We don't want to talk about any of those things because we're afraid that people are going to ask us questions and want to bring things up and argue with us and discuss the things that we don't have the answers for. And guess what? None of us have the answers for all these. We could go back and forth on predestination and non-predestination. We could go back and forth on justification and not be justified, on sanctification, on what is holy, on what is not holy. We could go back on didactic unions. We could do all this stuff that theologians talk about and argue about and have discussions on. And it's all fascinating, wonderful stuff. But at the end of the day, what Jesus said was this: love others as I have loved you. People had questions on faith. He listened to it. People needed to have a helping hand. He helped. People needed to be cared for. He cared for them. People that were shunned and were put away, He met them in the hottest part of the day, in the place of town that would be the most public, where He should be. He spoke to women, which was unheard of. He loved them, and He gave us the example of loving them. He didn't talk about predestination, did he? He didn't talk about justification, glorification, and how they all tie together. He didn't have those discussions. This discussion that Paul is having is because the believers needed to understand that they've already, he proved it. Faith without works is dead. It's not faith or works. It's not faith and works. It's faith that works. James said this, faith without works is dead. Our lives are examples before others. Well, we live in that example. Now, just to go through this here real quick, let me have you understand that. Those who are predestined are also called. Those who are called are also justified. Those who are justified, he also glorified. Here's how you need to understand this. I'm going to try to make this as easy as I can so you understand it. How many people play chess? Okay, the first time you sit down with someone who doesn't know how to play chess, you'll sit down and the person that plays chess has to set up a whole board. Okay? And the person sitting across from you, so they sit down, and if you ever go to like New York City and Grand Central Park, they have these chess boards, and people play chess, and it's serious. And if you get a chance, watch the people that really know how to play. You can see them in cartoons and all kinds of stuff where they're sitting across from one another. And the person that doesn't know how to play chess, the person that knows how to play chess sets up the board. There's a certain way that has to be set up. The queen has to go with the color. So if you're playing black, black queen has to go on the black square. If you're white, the white queen has to go on the white square. Now it's even, so you're ready to go. And you know the person that doesn't know how to play because they're sitting like this after the person sets it up, and they go like this. Ooh, look at the horsey. Look at this castle thing, okay? And it has like an official name. It's called a rook. Well, if the person that doesn't know how to play is going to go first, they may just take one of the little, there's 8 pawns in the front, and they may just move it 8 spaces. You can't do that. The person knows how to play, puts the piece back and says, okay, you can go 1 or 2 forward with that on the first move. After that, you go 1. So the person looks and says, okay, so they take it out 2. And then as they're going through, you can say the only one they can jump over is the horsey, which is also known as the knight. The person that knows the rules has to teach that to the person that doesn't know the rules. So you, if someone finally learns how to play the game, and you finally understand how to play the game. So you play the game, and eventually that guy that knows how to play chess is going to beat you. And then you have a choice. And your choice is to walk away or to play again. I decided I wanted to play again. So that beginner starts to learn a little better and starts to understand how the knights work, which are the horses. Starts to understand how each player works and how it goes. And eventually, guess what happens? The master puts them in the corner again and they get beat. And it continues to happen. But as they're learning from the master, they're learning the moves to make. They're understanding the game better. They're understanding that I've got to be thinking 2 and 3 moves ahead. That, hey, there is a purpose to this. And at the end, that purpose is to win the game. To get the person to a point of complete surrender where they have to make a choice. You know what? I quit, or let's start over so I can learn some more. And eventually, they get to the point where they say, listen, you have learned this so well, now go teach someone else how to play chess. And so they sit down now across the table with someone, and that new beginner goes, ooh, look, a horsey. And they move their pawn 6 pieces, with it 6 places in heaven they're not allowed to. And they start over that process, and they teach them play by play and step by step, and eventually teach them. Here's the thing with our faith. We're going to get beat up, and we're going to get beat, and the master's going to be sitting across from us and say, hey man, you lasted 4 moves. Hey, this time you went 7 moves. And hey, that was a bad move, and that was a struggle. But if you want to continue to learn, I'll keep teaching you and teaching you and teaching you. And you'll continue to learn and continue to learn to the point where you may not be the best ever. Because I'm the master. I'm the best ever. But I'll tell you what. You're going to play my image. And people are going to see that. And you can get as good as you want, and you can go and pass that on to the next person. And that's our faith. When we choose to listen to the master, and he says, hey, you know what, you screwed up there, that's okay. Because next time, this is what you can go and do. Hey, you know what, God, I didn't know that in 2 Kings this happened, and I didn't know this Judges, and seriously, when they brought up Obadiah, I snickered a little bit, because that's kind of a funny name to me. I didn't really know that was a book in the Bible. And I didn't know all the stuff that happened with Paul, and I didn't understand the missionary journey, and I didn't understand the words, and these were actually letters that were written, and I didn't understand, and then I got this revelation, and I didn't know, and I didn't know, and I didn't know, and God says, stop for a second. just want you to love people. And when people see that love, I just want them to see me. Because if they don't see me, then how in the world are they ever going to get to heaven? Because see, you were predestined. And you were called. And you were set apart. You were justified. And you were glorified. That glorified word that's in here literally means that glory right now. In other words, people can see God's glory through you as a believer. But only if we start walking around like we've already won. And we stop here. Here's how we stop, or here's why we stop. We stop because this didn't work out my way. We stop because, man, how much longer am I going to have to put up with this? We stop because, man, I get put down every time I bring this up. We stop because, oh my goodness, this means I might have to stop and pray. What if somebody turns to me and asks me a question? What if somebody wants to know about this verse? What if I don't have the answer? What if? We can't answer the question, what if? Can't answer it. We don't have the answer to that. Instead, Paul gives us the solution. And he says this. What then shall we say in response to this? It says this. If God is for us, who can be against us? Boom. Simply put. The word if that's in there can actually be read in some of the versions it's read since. Since God is for us, who can be against us? When I grew up as an altar boy, I loved the Easter season. I loved, God bless you, I loved going station by station as an altar boy because they would have these pictures up and it would depict Jesus going on the Via Dolorosa and would go all the way through. And we would go station by station and I absolutely loved it. They burned incense and it was so, I don't want to use the term religious, it was so relational. There was so much to it that you felt as though you were almost walking along this together as they read the words and you heard it and you got to see this picture. And this is a picture of faith. As Jesus was walking to the grave carrying his cross, he wasn't carrying that cross for himself. He was carrying that cross for you and for me. The issue was not what the Catholic Church taught, not what the Presbyterians taught, not what the Baptists taught, what is any of those things. When I got to the very end, and when Jesus was put into the grave, let me start over. When Jesus was put onto the cross, and then he went into the grave, it stopped for me. It stopped for me because at that point, Jesus died. And I couldn't understand for the life of me what the next step was. And so many times in our faith walk, and it doesn't matter if we're a student, it doesn't matter if we've had someone that's left us or abandoned us. It doesn't matter if we're going through a difficult time relationally. It doesn't matter if our job is a struggle. It doesn't matter if all of a sudden we're empty nesters. None of those things matter. What matters at the end of the day is that God loved us so much that He gave the example of everlasting life, of coming back. See, He hadn't changed. I just had never taken that last step. I could get Him to the cross, and I could get Him to the grave, and then it stopped for me. It stopped for me and, I've got to go and do this, and I've got to go and do this, and I've got to do 10 good things today to my 5 bad things, and then I'll be 5 to the good. That's my standard. That's not God's standard. God's standard is this: God is good. That's it. That's the only good thing that's in the Bible. God is good. And He's going to show you this really good thing that He did by not just sending His Son to the cross, but by allowing Him to rise from the dead. So Paul says it this way: since God is for us, who can be against us? So in the questions that you have, in the day-to-day walk that you have, in the people that God has brought into your life, when something doesn't make sense, it's that simple. Since God is for us, who can be against us? But let's make it personal. I'm holding Casey right now on her wrist. This is us. Since God is for us, who can be against us? But when I walk away, I've got to make the choice and the step to say, since God is for me, Who can be against me? You've got God on your side. I've got God on my side. When am I going to start acting like it in my faith walk? Why are you here today when everyone else is up tailgating? There's a big game going on. There's a huge game taking place. Ohio State just lost. The season's over for them, right? No, it's not. The Patriots, oh my goodness, they're done. No. Does that stuff really matter? Yeah, in your life it may. You know why? Because people talk about that stuff. You want to have a conversation, all you have to do is bring up Ohio State football. They'll talk all day long. You bring up Jesus, hey, good talking to you. Have a nice day, right? But living that before someone, so that they can see that. How many people had friends or families in Florida? Almost all of us do. You know why? Because there's no one actually from Florida that lives in Florida. I go there for spring break for college, and I'm like, hey, where are you guys from? They're like, North Canton, Ohio. Where are you from? Like, Akron, Ohio. Guys, where are you from? Worcester, Ohio. I'm like, does anybody live in Florida? The only one that I ever knew was born and raised in Florida was my brother-in-law. And he lived way out in the sticks somewhere. And he told me there was a reason for that. I'm like, why? He goes, so I can stay away from all the people from Ohio. And then he married my sister. So guess who he had to put up with? See, all things work for good. That's what we got to remember at the end of the day. But people right now, they're freaking out, aren't they? This little hurricane thing that's going on with Hurricane Irma. People have been warned and been told, you got to leave, you got to get out. Then it got to the point where they couldn't leave. They couldn't get gas. All the supplies, everything are gone. And so they're left there. So what do? I'll tell you what everyone does. Believer, non-believer, whatever, they are praying. Aren't they? And here's what will happen. When friends get through it, we'll be like, thank you, God. And if we lose someone that's close to us or someone that we know, we'll stop for a second and say, God's got a purpose in everything, but we'll only say it to ourselves. And what every person that doesn't believe, when this goes through, everything's going on, you know what they're going to do? This is God's fault. It's human nature. Because see, someone has to be to blame. Let's just blame God. When He made this place that we live on, right? He allowed sin to come into this world. So everything has to be His fault. Also, you believe in God? Oh, no, I don't believe in God. You don't believe in God, yet you're blaming God. That doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up. It also doesn't make sense for some of us to go, listen, you were told for days and weeks to leave the state, to evacuate. Why didn't you go? And don't think that I wasn't the same person. I had to talk to my sister, and she's like, oh, it's going to hit Miami. I said, how do you know it's going to hit Miami? She goes, what's what they said on the news? I think, well, everything on the news is true, right? Just like everything you read on the internet is true, right? Abraham Lincoln said that. It's not. And so guess what? That little hurricane thing that's 400 miles wide, that's bigger than the state of Ohio, it decided not to hit Miami. It decides it's going to go through Tampa now, is what they're saying. It could change. It could still change. My sister lives on an island just outside of Tampa. So when she comes home, she's probably not going to have a home. But it took me half a day to talk her out just to go to the middle of the state. So now she's in Ocala. And I said, that way you're in the middle, you can go further, or you can stay there to come back to help. Whatever happens, because we don't know. We don't have the answer. We have the answer. Each one of us has the answer. All these things that are evil, God will turn to good. If you trust and believe in that. All of these things that are meant for evil, God will turn to good. Does that mean people can die in the process? Yes. Does that mean there's going to be famine? Absolutely. Are there going to be natural disasters? You bet. Are people going to sin? You sin. I sin. Yes, that's going to happen. But all of these things, God will turn to good. But for us personally, to reach this world, we have to make the decision that since God is for us, who can be against us? Not what, who can be against us? So that when people put you down for your faith, when people say you don't know enough, and when you can't quote the exact verse, but you can love them right where they live in such a way that they can only see God, then you can say, God was for me. It doesn't matter who's against me. John chapter 2 is one of the most amazing chapters that you can read. I'm not going to read to you today because we don't have the things that are up here. Go and read later. In that chapter, Jesus turns the tables over Jesus is at two separate tables. In one of them, he goes in and it's a big old party. Everyone's drinking up, having a good old time, and drinking wine. You know what Jesus does? Jesus joins them. He says, hey, you guys want wine? Let me make you some more wine. This is a celebration for a wedding? No. This is a celebration for the beginning of my ministry. And then in the other one, later, all the religious people are getting together. And they're bringing their money in so they can make their sacrifice. And they can buy the perfect animals they can take for the sacrifice, because that's how it was done in the Old Testament. And so Jesus comes before these two tables, and if I just told you that much, what would you say Jesus would do with those two? Which would be the worst of the two taking place? Jesus at the celebration, or Jesus with all the religious people? Because at the celebration, Jesus joined in. And at the religious thing that was taking place, he turned the tables over. See, the reason we don't stand up for our faith enough is because when we see an injustice, we walk away. We know that something's wrong, we allow it, and then we pull ourselves out of it and say, I'll pray for that, or I'll step up for it later. Because we don't believe in our heart of hearts that in all things God is present. And that He will turn those negatives into positive. And that there will be evil, and yet He will turn it to good. Because we expect it right now. And when it doesn't happen, you and me, every one of us, we stop. We complain. We blame. We point fingers. We find an excuse. But we don't have to. I am third. Jesus, others, you. But most of all, since God is for us, who can be against us? Since God is for me, who can be against me? When I'm complacent, when my thoughts don't always match up with my heart, when I struggle with people, when I want to strangle someone and I know it's not the right thing to do, when I want to tell people to pound salt, when maybe my language isn't the best language, but I can stop long enough to say, man, since God is for me, nothing, no one, no person can be against me. Because I'm going to live my life in such a way that I've already won. How many Browns fans here today? Can't keep those hands up for a second. It's right before the kickoff. It's right before the kickoff. Mike shared this with me today. It's the Steelers versus the Kneelers today. Just made a bunch of Steelers fans all of a sudden, didn't I? It's right. Keep those hands up, Browns fans. Swing people ready to put in their team. All right. It's right before the kickoff. I'm getting ready to kick off. If you knew that once that ball was in the air, you would win every single game. You would go all the way through the playoffs, win every game. You would win the Super Bowl. And you would hoist a trophy. Browns fans, would you take it? Oh, wait, you guys don't know what that looks like. Hey, listen. Because God is for me, none of y'all can be against me. But if you knew that, would you take it? And your answer is absolutely you would take that. But it'd also be kind of boring, wouldn't it? I already know we're going to win. Yep, I already know we're going to win. Hey, we just threw 3 straight interceptions. We're down 21. That's okay. I already know we're going to win. Yeah, we've already decided. That's how we walk in our faith. I already know I'm going to heaven. I'm a believer. I'm good to go. I don't have to worry about when people are against me. I don't have to worry about being complacent. I don't have to worry about any of those things. And yet, until we start living our faith before others, how in the world can anyone else ever see that victory? Because they don't know that they've won. They don't know that they can win. But you do. And I do. And Paul does. Because of the example that Jesus gave. sit, if you just bow your heads and close your eyes for a little bit. Praise team's going to come up and share. So music. We're going to give you a couple minutes. Andy's just going to play the guitar for a little bit. I just want you to take this time just between you and God. God works for the good of those who love Him. We know that we love God. And we know that we've been called according, not to a purpose, but His purpose. How is it today that we can walk in victory? How is it today that people can see a conqueror? How is it today that when someone puts something up against us, we can stop and say, hey, 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 hey. Since God is for me, who can be against me? No one. Let's start living every day with a purpose. His purpose. Let's start walking every day with a purpose. His purpose. Let's start speaking every day with a purpose. Let's start living in such a way that people can't help but see Jesus through us. Because it's the only Jesus